I'm 70 years old today, Christmas Day, my birthday, and the hospital nurse just told me I have hours, not days. My 3 children won't answer my calls. My ex-husband changed his number. The cancer is winning, but that's not what's killing me. It's knowing I destroyed everyone who ever loved me for a man I could never truly have. Please subscribe and like my 10 p.m. stories, one story every night. It truly helps these tales touch more hearts. Share where you're listening from in the comments. Seeing our growing family from around the world always brings me joy. Now, let the story unfold. Being born on Christmas Day made me special. That's what my mother always said, brushing my hair in front of her vanity while carolers sang outside our Boston brownstone. You're God's gift twice over, Joanna. Born on the day love came into the world. I believed her. I believed I was special, blessed, destined for something extraordinary. My childhood Christmases were spectacular. The tree, the presents separated into 2 piles, Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, the way everyone made sure I never felt forgotten on the day the world celebrated someone else. My parents threw elaborate parties. Friends came, the family gathered. I was the center of everything. That specialness followed me through life like a promise the universe made and kept delivering on. I was beautiful. Dark hair that fell in waves, high cheekbones, my mother's green eyes that men said made them forget what they were going to say. I was magnetic. People gravitated toward me. I could walk into a room and feel the energy shift. Everyone suddenly aware I'd arrived. I met Charles when I was 26. He was 29, a teacher at Boston Latin School with sandy brown hair and wire-rimmed glasses that made him look bookish and safe. He had steady hands and a laugh that rumbled low in his chest, comforting, like distant thunder. He wasn't like the other men I dated, the ones who were dazzled by my looks, who wanted a beautiful woman on their arm like an accessory. Charles saw through all that. On our second date at that dim Italian restaurant, he'd looked at me across the table and said, "You know you don't have to perform for me, right? I'd rather meet the real person underneath all this charm." No one had ever called me out like that. I married him 8 months later, and for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to be perfect. We had 3 children in 5 years. Michael came first, then Rachel, then Sarah. Our house in Newton was always loud, always full, kids running through rooms, toys scattered across floors, me cooking dinner while Charles helped with homework at the kitchen table. I worked as an interior designer, taking on projects I could manage from home. We were comfortable, not wealthy, but enough. Enough for family vacations to Cape Cod every summer, enough for a modest savings account, enough for me to work part-time instead of full-time so I could be home when the kids got off the school bus. My Christmas birthdays became family traditions. Charles would bake 2 cakes, one chocolate for Christmas, one lemon with raspberry filling, my favorite. The kids would make me cards with crayons and glitter. Michael, serious, even at 7, would wrap presents in newspaper because he'd spent his allowance on the gift itself and had nothing left for wrapping paper. Those were good years. No, they were great years. I was 42, successful, married to a man who loved me despite knowing all my flaws, raising 3 kids who thought I could do no wrong. I had everything. But there was always this restlessness underneath, this feeling that I was meant for something more, something bigger, something that would make me feel the way I felt on those childhood Christmas birthdays when everyone's eyes were on me and me alone. I told myself it was ambition, drive, the natural hunger of someone who'd been told their whole life they were special. I didn't realize it was vanity. Not until I met Ethan. Ethan was my second cousin, though we'd never met growing up. His family had moved to California when he was young, and we only reconnected at my mother's funeral when I was 45. He was 40, recently divorced, with dark hair that fell across his forehead in a way that made him look both boyish and dangerous. He had my mother's green eyes, the family eyes, and a way of looking at me that made me feel like the only woman in the room, the only woman in the world. We talked at the reception, standing in the corner of my mother's house, while relatives shared casseroles and memories. He told me about his failed marriage, his job as an architect in Los Angeles, and his plans to move back to Boston to be closer to family. "You look like her," he said, gesturing to a photo of my mother on the mantel. "The same eyes, the same elegance, like you're already 3 steps ahead of everyone else." Is that a compliment? It's an observation. He smiled, sad and knowing. "I used to look at the family photos and wonder what it was like to be you. You always looked so luminous, like you'd never had a bad day in your life. Everyone has bad days. Not you. You were always golden." That word, golden, stirred something in me, a memory of how I used to feel, special, chosen, before life became routine, before I became just another mother in yoga pants at the grocery store. Charles touched my shoulder. "Sweetheart, we should start saying goodbye. The kids have school tomorrow." Ethan watched us, something unreadable in his expression. "It was nice meeting you both," but he looked only at me when he said it. Ethan moved back to Boston 6 weeks later. He called to ask if I knew any good real estate agents. I gave him 3 names and offered to help him look at apartments. "I don't want to impose," he said. "Your family, it's not an imposition." That's what I told Charles, too, when I mentioned I was helping Ethan apartment hunt. He's family. He doesn't know the city anymore. It's the right thing to do. Charles smiled, trusting, always trusting. "That's thoughtful of you. Invite him to dinner once he's settled." I took Ethan to see apartments on Saturday mornings. I told Charles I was meeting clients. The lies came easily, smoothly, like water finding cracks in stone. Ethan and I would drive through neighborhoods, and he'd tell me about his marriage, how his ex-wife had been critical, constantly comparing him to other men, more interested in what he could provide than who he was, how he'd felt inadequate in his own life. "I know what that feels like," I said, surprising myself. "You? But you seem to have everything figured out." Having everything and feeling alive aren't the same thing. He looked at me, and something passed between us. Recognition, understanding, a dangerous kind of connection that felt like being seen for the first time in years. The first time I kissed him, we were standing in an empty apartment in Beacon Hill. Winter sunlight streamed through tall windows, making everything look dreamlike. He'd been telling me about his vision for space, his hands gesturing passionately, and when he turned to me, his face bright with enthusiasm, I couldn't stop myself. I reached up and touched his face. He went very still. "Joan, don't talk." He kissed me back, his hands finding my waist, pulling me close. For that moment, I wasn't a 45-year-old mother of 3. I was golden again. "We can't," he whispered against my mouth. "I know." But we did anyway. It started as stolen hours. Saturday mornings became Saturday afternoons. I'd tell Charles I was meeting with clients, scouting furniture for projects, shopping for the house. He never questioned me. Why would he? I'd never given him a reason not to trust me. Ethan rented an apartment in the South End. I'd go there after school drop-offs, during what should have been work hours, inventing meetings and emergencies that didn't exist. I became a woman who lived in the margins, in the spaces between truth and lies. With Ethan, I felt young again, desirable, special. He looked at me like I was everything, and I'd forgotten what that felt like. Charles loved me, but it was comfortable love, steady. He knew my morning face, my mood swings, my ordinary humanness. Ethan didn't know any of that yet. With him, I could still be golden. "Leave him," Ethan said one afternoon, lying beside me in his bed, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. "We could be together, really together." "I have 3 kids." "I know, but you're not happy. I can see it in your eyes." "It's not that simple." "It could be." He turned my face toward his. "We're meant to be together, Joanne. You feel it too, don't you?" I did. God help me, I did. But every time I imagined telling Charles, I pictured Michael's face, Rachel's, Sarah's, 3 kids who thought their mother was someone to admire. So I lived split in 2, with Charles at night, with Ethan in stolen moments. I told myself I could have both, that I deserved both. That's what special people got, wasn't it? More than everyone else? Charles found out on my 50th birthday. We were having a family party, nothing big, just us and the kids, now 20, 18, and 16. Charles had made both cakes, like always. The kids had bought me gifts they'd saved for. Sarah, my youngest, had written me a poem about how I was her inspiration, her role model, the woman she wanted to become. I'd just blown out the candles when my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Happy birthday, beautiful. Can't wait to see you later and give you your real present." I'd forgotten to silence it. The phone was on the table. Charles was sitting right next to me. He glanced at the screen, saw the message, saw Ethan's name. His face didn't change. He just stood up, smiled at the kids, and said, "I need to cut more cake in the kitchen. Be right back." I followed him, my heart hammering. He was standing at the counter, his hands flat against the marble, breathing like he'd been running. "Charles, don't." His voice was quiet, shaking. "Don't you dare say his name in my house. It's not—" "How long?" I couldn't answer. "How long, Joanne?" 5 years. He made a sound I'd never heard him make before, like something vital had been torn out of him. 5 years, while I was raising your children, while I was taking care of your mother when she was dying, while I was loving you every single day. I'm sorry. Get out. Charles, please, get out of my house. The kids heard. They came running, saw their father, their steady, gentle father who never raised his voice, shaking with rage, saw their mother standing there, guilty and exposed. Michael, 20 and perceptive like I'd always been, looked between us. Understanding dawned on his face, followed by disgust. "Mom, what did you do?" Stay with me. This story is just getting darker. Subscribe now and don't miss the rest of tonight's tale at 10 p.m. I moved into a hotel that night. Charles filed for divorce 2 days later. The kids stopped speaking to me within a week. I'd try to call. Michael would hang up the second he heard my voice. Rachel would send texts saying, "Stop calling me." Sarah, my baby, blocked my number entirely. Charles wouldn't speak to me except through lawyers. The divorce was brutal, efficient. He took the house, half my business, half of everything we built. I didn't fight it. What could I say? That I deserved more after destroying our family? Ethan wanted me to move in with him immediately. "See, now we can be together, really together, no more hiding." But it felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. The kids wouldn't see me for Christmas that year. My 51st birthday came and went without a single call from any of them. Ethan threw me a party, invited friends I didn't know well, people from his architecture firm. They sang happy birthday, and I smiled and felt hollow. "Aren't you happy?" Ethan asked later, his arm around my waist. "We're finally together, no more sneaking around." "I'm happy," I lied. But I wasn't. I was hollowed out, haunted by the family I'd destroyed for a feeling that was already starting to fade. Ethan started talking about marriage. We should do it, make it official, show everyone this was worth it. But I couldn't. Something in me resisted. Maybe because deep down I knew the truth. I hadn't left Charles for Ethan. I'd left Charles for myself, for the feeling of being special, being desired, being something more than someone's wife and mother. And now that I had Ethan, now that there was no secret, no thrill, no performance, I felt more ordinary than ever. I tried to reconcile with my kids for 3 years, sent letters, emails, texts they never answered. Showed up at Michael's graduation from business school. Security escorted me out at his request. Tried to see Rachel when she got engaged. She told me through Charles that if I showed up at her wedding, she'd have me removed. Sarah was the one I missed most. My youngest, my poet, the one who'd written that I was her inspiration. I sent her cards on every birthday, every Christmas. Never heard back. Ethan grew frustrated. "You need to let them go. They're adults. They made their choice. But they're my children. I carried them. I raised them. They hate you. Move on." But I couldn't. The guilt was consuming me from the inside out.
On my 55th birthday, I told Ethan I couldn't marry him. We were at dinner, an expensive restaurant he'd chosen. He'd been dropping hints for weeks and had even shown me a ring. When I finally said the words, he went very still. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I can't. I'm sorry. You left your husband for me. Your children won't speak to you because of me. And now you're saying you won't marry me? It's not about you. It's about me. I'm not who I thought I was." He slammed his hands on the table, making our wine glasses jump. People at nearby tables turned to stare. "You're a narcissist," he said, his voice cold. "You ruin everything you touch because you only think about yourself. I was an idiot to think you could actually love someone." He left me sitting there. I never saw him again.
I spent the next decade trying to rebuild bridges that had been burned to ash. The kids wouldn't relent. Charles remarried, a woman named Diana who taught at his school, someone gentle and kind who posted photos of family dinners and holiday gatherings that included my children. I dated occasionally, men I met through work, through friends, but I couldn't connect, couldn't let anyone close. I'd destroyed the one person who truly loved me and lost my children in the process. What did I have to offer anyone? On my 60th birthday, I spent it alone. No Charles to bake cakes, no kids to make cards, no Ethan to dress up for. Just me in my apartment, watching Christmas movies and wondering how I'd become this person. I tried therapy. The therapist, a patient woman named Dr. Morrison, listened to my story and said, "You're grieving the person you thought you were." I don't understand. You spent your whole life believing you were special, that you deserved more. But when you finally took more, you realized it didn't make you happy. Now you're grieving the fantasy. So what do I do? You learn to be ordinary, and you learn that ordinary is enough. But I didn't know how to do that. I'd never been ordinary. I'd been golden. The cancer diagnosis came 2 days before my 68th birthday. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The oncologist, a brisk woman with silver hair, delivered the news with practiced sympathy. With treatment, you might have 18 months, maybe 2 years. And without, 6 months, maybe less. I chose treatment, but not because I wanted to live, because I was terrified to die, terrified of what came after, terrified of facing whatever judgment waited. The chemo was brutal. I'd sit in the infusion center, tubes running into my arms, watching other patients surrounded by family, husbands holding wives' hands, adult children reading to their mothers. Whole families are rallying around one person. I sat alone. I tried calling the kids again. Michael answered this time, his voice carefully neutral. "What do you want?" "I have cancer. I'm dying." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry to hear that." "Michael, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything, for hurting your father, for choosing myself over all of you, for... You're sorry you're dying, not sorry for what you did." "No, You destroyed Dad. You destroyed us. And now you want us to feel bad for you? To come running back because you're sick?" His voice cracked. "You're still so selfish you can't even die without making it about you, without needing us to absolve you so you can die feeling better about yourself." "Michael." "Goodbye, Mom." He hung up. I tried Rachel. She wouldn't answer. Sarah had blocked me on everything. I was going to die alone, and it was exactly what I deserved. Last year's Christmas birthday was the worst yet. The cancer was progressing despite treatment. I could barely keep food down. My hair had fallen out. I looked skeletal, a ghost of the beautiful woman I'd once been. I decided to throw one last party. Not for me, for my kids, for Charles. A chance to apologize properly, to say everything I should have said years ago. I rented a room at a nice restaurant, sent formal invitations explaining everything, the cancer, the prognosis, my desperate need to see them one more time. I promised I wouldn't ask for forgiveness, wouldn't make demands. I just wanted to say goodbye. I wanted them to know that I knew what I destroyed, that I carried the weight of it every day. None of them came. I sat in that restaurant room, surrounded by empty chairs and untouched food, a mockery of all those childhood birthdays when I'd been the center of everything. The waitress, a young woman named Jessica with kind eyes, tried to comfort me. Maybe they got held up in traffic? No, they're not coming. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what I earned. She brought me cake anyway, saying happy birthday by herself in that empty room, her voice sweet and slightly off key. I cried into my napkin while she pretended not to notice. That was my 69th birthday, and I knew I wouldn't make it to 70. But I did, barely. The hospice nurse, a woman named Patricia with salt and pepper hair and the same gentle hands Charles used to have, told me this morning I probably wouldn't see tomorrow. "Do you want me to call anyone?" she asked. "There's no one to call." She looked at me with such pity it hurt worse than the cancer. "What about your children?" "They won't come." "You should try. You never know." So I did. One last time. Called all 3 numbers. Michael went to voicemail. Rachel rang and rang. Sarah's was disconnected. I left messages for the ones that worked, my voice weak and rasping. "It's Mom. I'm dying. Today, probably. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. You deserved a better mother. Your father deserved a better wife. I threw away everything that mattered for something that meant nothing. I know you won't forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I was, what I did, and I'm sorry." That was 8 hours ago. Nobody called back. Now it's evening, Christmas Day, my 70th birthday. I can hear carolers outside the hospice window singing about joy and peace and goodwill to all. I'm dying alone because I chose feeling special over being loved, chose admiration over devotion, chose myself over everyone who ever mattered. Patricia brings me morphine for the pain, she says. But the physical pain isn't what's killing me. It's the absence, the empty space where my family should be. There's a card on my bedside table. Patricia gave it to me an hour ago. "This came for you. It's from Sarah, my baby, my poet, the one who'd wanted to be like me." Inside, in her careful handwriting, "I don't forgive you. I don't think I ever will. But I don't want you to die thinking I hate you. I don't hate you. I hate what you did. I hate who you chose to be. I hate that you threw us away like we didn't matter. But somewhere under all that, there's still a little girl who loved her mother. So I'm telling you, I hope you find peace. I hope whatever comes next is kinder to you than you were to us. S." It's not forgiveness. It's not reconciliation, but it's something. A small mercy at the end of everything. I'm crying as I read it again, tears running down my hollow cheeks. Patricia holds my hand. "Is it from your daughter?" "Yes." "That's good. That's something." It is. It's not enough to erase the damage, not enough to fix what I broke, but it's proof that somewhere in the wreckage there's still a piece of love left. Not for me, for the mother I could have been, for the memory of who I was before I chose to destroy everything. The morphine is pulling me under. The room is getting dimmer, softer. I can hear the carolers singing Silent Night. I think about Charles, about how he used to trace my face with his fingertips in the morning light, like he was memorizing something precious. About Michael's serious little face when he'd show me his good grades. About Rachel's laugh. About Sarah's poetry,
dedicated to the woman she thought I was. I think about Ethan and realize I can barely remember his face. What I remember is the feeling, being wanted, being desired, being special. I traded everything real for something that never existed. I think about being born on Christmas Day, about being told I was special, about believing I deserved more than what I had. And I realize, finally, that what I had was everything, and I threw it away because I didn't know the difference between being special and being loved. The last thing I see is Patricia's kind face, blurred through tears. The last thing I hear is silent night drifting through the window. The last thing I feel is regret, and the ghost of what love used to feel like before I killed it. Some mistakes don't get second chances. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. I learned too late that being golden means nothing when you're dying alone, that being born special doesn't make you special, that love is the only thing that matters, and by the time you realize it, you've already destroyed it. This is my confession. This is my Christmas. This is my end. If this story touched you, stay with me for the next one. Subscribe, like, share it with someone who would feel it, and leave your thoughts in the comments. My 10 p.m. stories, one story every night at 10 p.m.